So my talk is uncertainty, and this is what we need more of in science. We've already heard two great talks that describe that we have too much certainty. We have a pandemic of over-certainty, if you like. And so what we really need is a return of greater uncertainty. And I'm going to kind of try to prove this to you today in a little bit, in a little way. Try to bolster the talks we just heard a little bit too. So this is three pictures here. The upper left is from a early Air Force Navy cryptography, a piece of cryptography equipment, electronic cryptography. So what's that? Everybody knows what cryptography is. You put your password in the websites and so forth, and the data is encrypted and all this kind of thing. So what does that mean? The data is encrypted. So when you send something out over the web or you log into your bank site or something like this, everybody along the line can see the data that's out there. The data that passes between your computer and the bank's computer, for instance. And if I saw that data, and I was able to then use that data in some fancy way through some computer model, and I was able to predict what was actually in that data, well then I would be able to break your password, I would be able to see what you have, I would see your secret knowledge. So this is an interesting thing about randomness, which we'll come back to. Now I was also a weather forecaster. I was doing atmospheric physics. I was very interested in climate models and marrying climate models to other models, and global warming was a big thing. I started off as a global warming believer, and when I was a graduate student doing dynamical meteorology and the like, and I became quickly a skeptic for lots of reasons we could talk about. And for a while I was briefly a professor of medicine, not of medicine, in the Department of Medicine, a professor of biostatistics at Cornell. And I was a mentalist, a professional mentalist. And so what is a mentalist? A mentalist is someone who tries to read your thoughts, or have you be able to read my thoughts. And I was performing this on Las Vegas, on the Las Vegas Strip for a conference of engineers. Max Brooks opened for me. He was this is true story, he was the guy who wrote the World War Z, Mel Brooks' son. Have you heard of that book, that kind of stuff? This was a conference of engineers and so forth. And what I was trying to teach them is how to build scientific models and how to understand uncertainty and all that kind of stuff that we're doing here today too. So I wanted to demonstrate how I could do that. So what I did was I handed out my business card, and they took it in the audience, and 5 people took it. And I asked them, my back was turned, I couldn't see what they were doing, and I asked them, since this was Las Vegas, I said, write down your favorite card, whatever, ace of spades, 2 of hearts, whatever you like. And then somebody collected the cards, they brought them up to me, and then I started asking the people, I knew who basically where the cards were handed out and so forth, and I started asking people questions. I didn't say, what was your favorite card? Nothing simple like this, but questions that kind of probed their psychology. And infer from that a model of what I think the best, because I had the cards in front of me, I had the cards, I saw that someone picked the 3 of clubs and so forth. And so by asking carefully selected questions, I was able to discern exactly who picked which card. I identified all 5 correct. And you can calculate the probability of this, and it's kind of low and everything, and it seems remarkable. So I thought, because it's so important in science, of course, to build theory and models and the like, I thought we'd do something similar to that today here. Except I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to have you guys be the scientists, and you're going to try to probe my mind. So I'm going to do it's very simple. It's not perplexing or anything like this. But I'm going to think of a number between 1 and 5. Let me write it down so I don't forget it, because my memory is terrible. And what I want you to do, and I've kind of given I did it on purpose this way, because I've kind of given, I'm going to write it down. Let's see here. This is just so I don't change my own mind. Let me give it to somebody here in the audience. Don't peek at this. Hide this on your cell phone. Well, I want to make sure I have it right. So I've kind of given, on purpose, maybe you didn't notice, maybe you did, but I've kind of given you signals to tell you the number that I've already picked. And I want to know, has anybody picked up on this? Anybody have a guess?
2.
Yes, sir. 2. Okay, why 2? You saw me right 2.
That's how it was.
Anything else? What do you think? So now you have a model, you have some evidence, right? And so now what do you think the chances that you're making a prediction, right? Because we don't know what it is yet, so what's the chance that that's correct? Based on your model. You know, you don't have to come up with an exact number, of course you can't, but maybe... Oh, 20, what? 20%. Why 20%? 1 out of 5, okay. That's a model too. That's a model too, but you seem more certain than that. 100%. That, would you bet your life on it? I mean, that's a pretty big risk right there, 100%. Maybe modify that a little bit. Anybody else have a different number? What do you buy? 3. 3. Why 3?
Because you had 3 pictures at the beginning.
3 pictures at the beginning. So what's your guess of the odds of 3?
My wife's the mathematician.
Approximately. Good. That's good. When you don't know, don't say you know. That's our first lesson right there. If we had more of that in science, we'd be doing a lot better job. Anybody else? We have 2 and 3. Any other numbers? 5. 5. Why 5?
Because you told 2 stories with the number 5.
Okay. What do you think the chances are? 50%. Okay. Well, now the big reveal. Could you read the number out, please? I said a number between 1 and 5. This is a number between 1 and 5. So we all were able to form models. We all made predictions. We had all the same available data. None of us thought, in that sense of data, we're able to complete the thought of what that means. All of your guesses were good and correct based on the evidence that you had. I did indeed fake it too. Yes, I did. It looked like a 2, but it wasn't a 2. So you can make up misread observations. It's very easy. This is what I wanted to show you. Is that in science, and this is a scientific experiment, just like the most sophisticated one we could run. We form these hypotheses, we make our measurements, and we come to these theories, and we're pretty confident in these theories. Not 100% perhaps, that's going overboard, but 50%. We all have these kinds of guesses, and that's how easy it is to go wrong in science. So if we can go that wrong over something so simple, imagine when we do have these complex sort of questions in front of us, how badly we can do it. Now, before you knew the outcome, I say the outcome was random. Random, meaning unknown. You didn't know exactly what it was. You had some guesses, you had some theories and so forth. But it was random. So that's what random means. It means unknown. So I want us to think of some other outcomes in our lives, or common occurrences or common things that you can think of that are random. And we've all heard the term, so maybe you think of something you've seen before that's random. Anybody? Golf swing? Sure, why not? In fact, the first ordnance tests of the United States Army with their ordnance range, they called those shots random for just that reason. I'm thinking things like a coin flip. We all think a coin flip is random. Things like a coincidence.
Dice.
What's that? Dice, perfect, yes, exactly. Casinos make use of these kinds of things. So this is a picture, this is a genuine picture from the town in which I grew up, which is the same town Claude Shannon grew up.
Wow.
A very small town in northern Michigan. My high school graduating class size was 30. I was number 29. Sister Dorothy was merciful and let me pass. And my very first job was on this street in high school, Random Lane. So that's a coincidence, right? So the coincidence is kind of a random thing too. So let's think about these. Okay, so this is a true story too. So Carl Jung, the philosopher, had on his couch a woman who was being psychologized, and she was telling him of a dream she had of a scarab beetle. And as she was relating this dream, there was a scratching at the window, and Jung went over to the window and opened it up, and in flew a scarabid beetle, landed on his hand. So that's an amazing coincidence. So that's a random, some people would say, hey, that's random. So what do we mean by that? Now we need to understand that, because that seemingly simple thing is the tie between why all the science is bad and what we should do about correcting it. It doesn't seem like it perhaps at first, but I hope to demonstrate that it is true. And there we go. So I got this off of Twitter last Thursday or Friday, I can't remember which day. And apparently this is true. The past 8 teams to lose to the Super Bowl, lose the coin toss, wound up winning the game. Now I don't know what happened on Sunday. I didn't see it, so I don't know. Who?
Chiefs won the toss and won the game.
They won the coin toss and they won?
Yes.
All right, so we've already falsified this kind of. But there it is, right there. So what? Before this is happening, before the game, we might have thought to ourselves, well, why is that? We can easily invent stories why that's the case. Well, we're starting out as the underdogs in a sense. We're having to kick off, and the other guys get the ball first. So now we got to work harder. Our spirits are larger. Maybe that's why they were winning. So you can tell yourself these theories really, really simply. You could, just like we were doing with the number guessing thing, you could come up with theories quite easily to fit the available data. And so I would say this is a coincidence. And so was Young's beetle a coincidence. So we have different ideas about what a coincidence means. I know. Okay. So let's think about this. And that was a coin flip, and we mentioned coin flips as being one thing we think is random. This is a picture of one of my advisors at Cornell when he was at Cornell, Percy Diaconis. He's a very famous, world famous mathematician. And he was the guy who discovered that it takes 7 shuffles of a deck of cards to make the order unpredictable. And he's very interested in these same kinds of subjects. He was very interested in mentalism and magic, and so in the same way that I was very eagerly his student. So he was very interested in coin flips in particular. What makes a coin? Yes, sir. That's random. Yes, there we go. Who could have predicted that? See. Now, Percy, we all know we all guessed the coin flip probability that's a model. A probability comes from a model. So we all guessed this model, the coin flip of being 50-50. Seems a reasonable thing. But why? Well, because when we've had our experience of flipping the coins, we can't really predict what the outcome's going to be. But if you happen to know some friendly engineers at Stanford University, you could have them build this little machine right here, which Percy had them do. It's kind of hard to see, but you can see somebody's hand there. If you press a lever, I know you can't really recognize it, but if you press this lever right there, the coin will flip, go up in the air, spin, rotate a number of times, and it'll land in this cup, this little orange cup right there. Every time, heads, without exception.
What?
Why? Because the coin flip is just a mechanical motion. When you're flipping the coin, you impart to it a certain amount of momentum and a certain amount of spin. And if you knew what these were and you knew the equations of motion, it's really not difficult at all to predict the outcome with certainty. Aha. So we have proven that we have 2 models, one which I have no idea how much force and spin I'm giving the thing, and the outcome is 50-50. And another is I do know, and the outcome is certain. So probability and modeling, probability depends on your model. Your model changes, the probability changes. This is another reason why we should not use p-values, we'll see. Because there is no unique probability. Things only have probabilities when we assign premises to them, when we give them some kind of a model. Speaking of coincidences, it was Young's idea. He has a whole book of these things. He called them synchronicity. And Percy and Fred Mosteller, coincidences, they have pretty much the same definition. So when events happen, more than 2 events happen at the same time, and they have a seeming connection, but we can't identify a cause between them. So for instance, it's really weird, isn't it, to be sitting there hearing a dream about a beetle, a scarab beetle, and then here comes a scarab beetle at the window. So Young called this synchronicity in the sense that it's an acausal principle that brings things together. But I think that's the wrong word. Basically what he meant by that was something had caused the woman's dream. Of course, something did cause the woman's dream. Something caused the beetle to be at the window at that particular time. So the idea that makes it weird to us is that this thing happened together. And so we can't help but posit there must be, the woman dreaming didn't cause, the woman's relating the tale of her dream didn't cause the beetle to come to the window in any sense. But maybe there was some other cause, some cause further back. In this causal chain, maybe the Lord himself wanted this to happen, that the woman was going to give this story and the beetle would show up. That's the kind of thing that I think we can call synchronicity. When we suspect that there's this distant tying cause that might exist, but we can't prove it. And this is all relevant to science. It doesn't seem like it at first, but I'm gonna prove it to you that it does. As opposed to, in English, sometimes coincidence, we use coincidence, and we say, that's a coincidence, in a strange kind of a way when we mean that there's some identified cause that binds these events together. And sometimes we mean, just like the coin flips about the Super Bowl outcomes, maybe it's just two events that are happening together that have no causal connection whatsoever, but we don't assign one, we don't even seek them out, because we know that there's no causal connection. So it all ties back to cause. So we're always interested in cause. This is getting back to the idea of statistical significance. In statistics, the word significance doesn't mean what it means in English at all. It's a brilliant move for them to use the word, but it doesn't mean anything. It means we p-value. And we p-value means significance. It's a circular definition. When your p-value is not we, when it's large, you say the results are explainable by chance alone, which is kind of the American or the English version of coincidence, where you don't think there's any kind of causal tying principle together. The problem is, we'll come to the problem. The problem is this. There's lots of papers out there, you can read just endless numbers of papers. They say, well, these results can't be due to chance. These results can't be due to chance. What do they mean? Or these results are due to chance or caused by chance. It becomes like Gerd Gigerenzer says, a sort of ritual. And there's almost a belief that chance itself has causal powers. That Fortuna herself is out there causing certain things that we can't predict. So this is what chance is. I mean, we're leading up to this and to how science goes bad. So chance just is unpredictability. We saw in the coin flip that if we knew the physics of the thing, it was perfectly predictable, and there's no chance about it. And when we don't know the outcome and we don't know the cause, well, then we're more likely to ascribe things to chance. So chance is unpredictability, which is a synonym of ignorance, which just means what random means. That's it. So in other words, to sum it all up even shorter, chance is unknown cause. When we don't know the cause, or all of the causes, many things have lots of causes, and cause itself is very difficult to understand, but understanding cause is the true goal of science, to know why something happened, when it did, and how it did. We want to understand the cause. Okay. So when we don't know it, we ascribe things to chance, which is not the right thing. It just means we don't know what caused things. So in logic, we have a well-known phrase, and it's true. Correlation does not imply causation. All right? Another way to say that is coincidence. In the English phrase we're kind of using in the Diaconus Mosteller kind of way. Coincidence does not imply causation. Right? Simple. That's absolutely true. But the ritual inside statistics, when all that stuff about p-values boils down to, is that suddenly we throw coincidence out the window. We say, no, this has to be causation because Fauci's P is we. That is exactly what has happened. It is a fallacy. Every use of a p-value is a logical fallacy. It's never right, not ever, not once, not for any reason. It could be that in this case that you used a p-value and it was we. It turned out you did identify causality correctly. It's possible, yes. But a lot of times it turns out to be absolutely wrong. Like the models we had about the number that I was guessing. We all had pretty confident guesses. The chances at least one in 5, right? 20%, something like this. No. It's not that way at all. So this is the real problem right here. It's mistaking correlation for causation, and this happens all of the time. All of the time. And so, what do? Well, what does it lead to? It leads to things like this. This was going around the internet. It periodically resurfaces. This is what the kind of science that is being practiced out there now leads to. These are all headlines from the Daily Mail. The first one's from January 2019. 1 egg a day lowers the risk of type 2 diabetes. The second headline, about 2 years later, eating an egg a day increases your risk of diabetes. Both of these were produced by science, by studies that determined the correlation they had in their models. The correlation of their data and their model was identified as causation. And so we get these contradictory headlines. So what do? Do you eat an egg or you don't? You don't know. You can't tell from this. And this amazes people, but this is exactly the kind of thing that happens if you assume your correlation is indeed causation. I got a whole collection of these. I won't bore you with all of them. I'll just kind of show you one or two. Chocolate is bad for your heart. That's on January 2012. And by April 2012, they use the same damn picture. This is also the Daily News. Eating chocolate turns out now to be good for your heart. I don't know what the case is, whether our other eminent speakers will tell me whether or not chocolate's any good. I don't know. But they both can't be true. So we have a fundamental disconnect here. So we have proven to ourselves, at least in these cases, it can't be true that egg both raises and lowers your risk for diabetes, and it can't be true chocolate is bad and good. It can't be true that vitamins are both bad and good. Vitamins increase your risk of disease. Vitamins are bad, are good for you. Vitamins are bad for you. And this one, this is kind of fun. This first one is 21 May 2012, and the second, 5 days later. Of course, reporters don't know. They'll just put everything they get. They're just shoving this stuff out there, and no one remembers what happened a week ago anyway. I go on. That one was dairy. Dairy is good for you. Dairy is bad for you. I got a whole collection of these things, and you can find them yourself. Just go to like scholar.google.com or something like this, and type in anything you like, whatever disease you like, and whatever cure or common thing, chocolate, coffee. Sometimes coffee is good for you, sometimes it's bad for you. Now it's coffee with milk is good for you, but coffee alone is not good for you. Who knows? So why? Well, again, it's because people identify that the correlations they have seen, they declare are causation. And nobody checks. Nobody checks. That's the replication bias. That's the entire thing. And in fact, that's what Greg was showing you with all the necromancy and nephromancy and all these kinds of things. They've noticed certain things that sometimes happen. They have these coincidences. And they've built models based on that, and they become science of the day. It's exactly the same thing they did. We read these stories and we think ourselves so superior to these ancients who didn't know what they were doing when they were screaming and so forth. We're doing exactly the same thing. We're just doing it in Excel. There's no difference between them and us at all. Their goals were noble. They were trying to decide, should we go to war today or something like this. Here we're trying to say, should I have an egg or not? This is something pathetic. So this is what happens here. We have, this is exactly what happens. We're trying to design these experiments and everything, and we're aiming at reality. That's the hope. We're trying to figure out how the world works. But a lot of times when we shoot these evidential arrows, if you like, and we can come running over to those things, and we can create a model around them real easy. It's just super easy to do. I mean, this is the real problem. There's too many scientists doing too much science, and science is too easy. It's too simple. Anybody can program this stuff in their computers now. Models can squeeze into any size set of genes. You can take your data that you have, and you can squeeze it into any favorite model that you have. And we did this at the very beginning. We did it to ourselves, and we were trying to guess what number I picked. We took the data that we have, and we squeezed it into a model, the wrong model for all of us. But that's just how simple it is. The images from that old Geico commercial, I always love this, because this woman's trying to squeeze into this dress. It was an old, remember those Geico commercials, the saving, going with Geico, saving money or something like this, and the guy says, "Is Abe Lincoln honest?" And this Mary Todd character here, she says, does this dress make my behind look good, or look fat? And Abe is, perhaps, and she storms off. But that's the key. So he was a good scientist. He was reluctant to admit what the data had showed him, but in the end he did. But nowadays, a lot of people, a lot of scientists, especially in the politics that we have today, where they're not going to go against the consensus in any field, especially when the data is obviously bad. So they're going to either not publish, or they're going to manipulate the data in such a way that they can make it fit. It's just too easy to make data fit into models. It's simplicity itself, it really is. So the reason they do it is this. Many scientists do know that they're after cause. They're after the description of nature. They want to say how the world works, okay? Not the ones who are cheating and all this kind of stuff, but the honest scientists, which comprises the bulk of them. They want to say how the world works, and so they build these models, and they say the model explains the data well. They say the model explains the data well, and they talk themselves into this is so important that this becomes a fundamental goal of science for them, explaining their data well. But if the model explains the data well, but the model makes wrong predictions, then what the model is explaining is not reality. It's not explaining reality, it's only explaining the modeler's biases, okay? That's where we've gone wrong in science. That's how easy it is to go wrong, because we've made science such a routine, regular thing that anybody can become a scientist. It takes almost no training and effort, and there's tons of funding out there. There's just too much science. There's too much of it. There's too much of it being done, and there's too much of it being lorded over us. This is why it's so easy for people to pick the science they want you to follow. That's why they're always saying, listen, follow the science, when they always mean, follow me, follow me. So, and I want to echo what Briggs said. What's the cure? What's the fix? There isn't one. I mean, we could make some of us more aware of these kinds of the things that we've done here and we're doing here today, but the enterprise is just too big. It's a behemoth. It's Leviathan. Trudging forward. There's no way with our efforts we're going to stop it. But with hope, we can build a remnant up who at least understands the real problems that we're having. And that's my talk. Thank you very much.